Hello everyone and welcome to this week's behind the scenes devlog video, and this week I'm going to be working on entity health and also implementing disease into the game. So it's already Wednesday today, but I did actually get quite a lot done in the last couple of days, I just didn't record it. So I've been working a bit more on the environmental satisfaction of entities, and I created a new mouse over pop-up when you mouse over the environment progress bar, and this tells you all of the factors that are influencing the entity's happiness with its environment. Also, I did a bit more work on the trait modification GUI, and this now looks a little bit nicer than it did last week. But for the rest of this week, as I said, I'm going to be working on entity health and disease. So to start off the week, I've been doing a little bit of maths, and I'm currently trying to work out how the age of an entity and its health should relate to each other, so how the health will decrease as the entity gets older, and I'm currently testing a few formulas out using this very nice website called graph.tk. So I'm now just working in the health component, and I've been implementing all of the health calculations into the code. So the health of an entity is now affected by the local population. It's also affected by the age of the entity's life expectancy, as well as a few other things like physical damage, damage from disease, and also on how happy the entity is with its environment. And it's also going to be affected by how well fed the entity is at some point, but I haven't really got into implementing eating yet. So I can now give you an example of health in the game. So this sheep here is just age 3, so it's got a pretty good health. This one over here is getting a bit older, so its health is starting to decrease. And if we have a look at the sheep in the other area over here, this one is only age 7, but its health is pretty low because its environment is so bad. So the environment has negatively affected its health there. So if I now speed up the time, you'll see that as this sheep gets older, its health starts to slowly decrease. So now it's age 33 and it's not got much health left, and eventually when the health reaches 0, the sheep will actually die. To finish off the morning, I've been working on a pop-up which appears when you mouse over the health bar, and this gives you all the information about all of the factors that are affecting the health of the entity. But it's 1 now, so I'm currently stopping for some lunch. Back to work this afternoon, and next up I've been working on having the contents of these pop-up entity GUIs be able to update while they're open. So you can see here the age is now updating as the entity gets older, because before you'd have to close and open it in order for it to update, but now I've got the text all updating. And next I need to work on having the components that aren't just text, like the progress bars. I need to get them to update as well. So I have now got the progress bars updating while the GUI is open, so you can see if I speed up the time here, as this sheep gets older, its health slowly decreases. To finish off programming for today, I've been once again working on the species information GUI, and I've been doing some work on the stats part, and you can see that it now has information about the environmental preferences of the species, such as the suitable biomes that it can grow in or live in, and which species it likes to have around and stuff like that. And obviously I still need to do a bit of formatting there, but I've at least sorted out the problem with text going onto multiple lines, which was causing me a lot of trouble before. But I'm going to stop for now and go for a run, and then I'm going to have some dinner. For the rest of the day I'm just going to be going through YouTube comments, but first I'm going to have my dinner, which today is a ham and cheese omelette with some roasted sweet potatoes. It is just past 8 o'clock on Thursday morning. I've just had some breakfast and been for a run, and now I'm going to get started, and today I'm hoping to start implementing disease. So first up this morning, I want to reformat all of the text in the stats section of the species information GUI, and I've been trying out a few different layouts, and I haven't really got anything that I really like yet. It's a bit tricky because the space is quite limited and I need to fit in the stats section and the abilities section, but I'm trying out a few things and hopefully I'll end up with something quite nice. So I am now sort of happy with the formatting for the stats section, and I've now moved on to the abilities section, which shows information about the behaviour of the species, and each component of the species can give some information here. So this is the bouncing component, giving some information for the sheep there, but if there isn't any information from any of the components, then it just gives you this message here, although that probably won't happen that often. It is 11:15, and next up I've been working on allowing for components other than just text in the species information GUI. So you can see here that the tier is now indicated by the number of stars. So the birch tree here is a tier 3 entity, which is of course because it's in the 3rd tier of its breeding tree. To finish off the morning, I've just been planning out and started implementing the new disease functionality into the code, and this is going to allow entities to randomly catch disease sometimes and also infect other nearby entities. So I've started off here, but I haven't really got very far yet. I'm going to stop for lunch now, and then I will continue on with this afternoon. Back to work after lunch now, and at the moment I'm working on some calculations to determine how likely it is for an entity to get diseased based on the entity's health, because I want it so that the entities that have a lower health have a much higher chance of getting a disease. So at the moment I'm just working on those calculations and trying to find some nice values to create a good rate of disease. It is 5 o'clock and I've now pretty much finished implementing all of the disease functionality into the game. So now when an entity gets diseased, you get a little pop-up in the bottom right hand corner, and then that diseased entity has a chance of passing that disease on to nearby entities depending on how healthy they are. It also has a chance of being cured depending on how healthy it is, and it will also take damage over time unless the disease is cured. It's a bit tricky to show you all of that at the moment though, because there's no real way of telling which sheep has been diseased. So what I need to implement is, firstly I want to implement icons above the heads of the diseased animals so that you can see very quickly which animals are diseased, and I also want to make it so that when you get a pop-up like this that you can click on it and it will take you to the diseased entity, so you can very quickly have a look at where the event took place. To finish off the day, I have now implemented the thing with the notifications, so now when you get a notification about a diseased animal you just have to mouse over it and it will take you to that diseased animal, which should be one of these sheep over here, this one over here. Obviously it will be a lot more obvious when they have icons above their heads. Time for some dinner, and today I've been very adventurous and I've attempted to cook some Lebanese style chicken, some Singaporean roti prata, which is this bread thing which didn't quite turn out how it should, but I think it's not too bad, and also some sautéed cabbage. To finish off today, I've just been updating the IndieDB page about Equilinox, and I've just been adding in a bit of a description about the game in there. It is 7:30 on Friday morning. I'm just coming back from my morning run, and today I'm going to be continuing on with the disease stuff. Before I get started with programming today, I just wanted to do a bit of work on this week's behind the scenes devlog video, so I've just spent the last hour editing some of that together. Back to work on the game now, and the first thing that I've been doing today is a little bit of work on the text system to allow for text to be indented when it's part of a bullet point. So you can see here that the second line of this bullet point text has been indented a bit from the left so that it's not underneath the bullet point. And I've been doing the same thing in the task interfaces for the requirements. So when the requirements go over multiple lines, all the lines after the first line get indented so that they're nice and tidy and not underneath the bullet point. Next up today, I've been adapting the particle effect system to also work like billboards, so that I can have billboards like this in the world which are just icons which always face the camera. And I'm testing that out here with this interesting icon here, and I can make this appear or disappear whenever I want it to, and this is what I'm going to use to have little icons above the heads of all of the diseased entities. Just about to stop for lunch, and I've just finished implementing the icons showing above the diseased entities' heads, and you can see that happening here. This afternoon I've just been finishing off the disease system, and I've been going through all of the code, making sure it all works, testing it out, and I've also just implemented a particle effect which happens whenever the entity takes damage from the disease. To finish off the day, I've been working on adding an icon above a sheep's head when you have selected breeding turned on. So for example, if I turn selected breeding on for this sheep, you can see that it now has an icon above its head indicating that that sheep is now being selectively bred, and when it comes out of these trees I'll be able to click on it again, and if I now turn off selected breeding you can see that that icon has disappeared. So I have now pretty much finished the disease system, and I wanted to give you a quick overview of everything that it involves. So all animals and plants now have the chance of catching a disease, and that chance is significantly higher for the ones that are living in an unsatisfactory environment. So these sheep here, for example, are much more likely to catch a disease than these healthy, happy sheep over here. When an entity initially catches a disease, you get a notification about it so that you can go and sort it out, and the diseased entity will then take damage every few seconds while it has the disease. When an entity has a disease, it has the chance of infecting other nearby entities, and again, the old and less healthy sheep are much more likely to catch the disease off an infected sheep. So you can see here that the disease spreads very quickly through these unhealthy sheep, but the disease is much less likely to spread in an area of healthy sheep like this. Finally, there is a chance that the disease will eventually be cured, and the chance of an entity being cured is higher if the sheep is healthy. So by moving one of these sick sheep into a nicer environment, its health goes up and there's a good chance that it will survive. So that is it for this week. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you all next time.